They ruined everything. My home, my peace, my dignity. The moment I opened that door and saw the chaos, I knew someone needed to learn a lesson. And who better to teach it than me? My name is Amanda Collins, and until that day, I believed that respect was earned through patience, hard work, and goodwill. But some people only understand boundaries when they're pushed against them. That day, my mother-in-law and her crowd met the wall. I'm a nurse in a busy Dallas hospital. 12-hour shifts are just part of my routine. Even when I'm bone tired, I make sure our home is clean, our daughter is happy, and our fridge is full. Not out of pride, but out of self-respect. Because that's the least my family deserves. And yes, I'm that type of woman who handles everything. And no, that shouldn't be a problem, but it is, especially for Mildred, my mother-in-law. She's the kind of woman who believes that a real man needs to feel in control, and that an independent woman forgets to treat her husband like a king. Those are her words, not mine. She's never liked me. Maybe because I speak my mind. Maybe because I don't let her run over me like she does with the rest of the family. Whatever the reason, our relationship has always been ice cold. Tolerated, at best. The night before it all happened, I had gone grocery shopping after work. I filled the fridge with fresh meat, fruits, vegetables, juices, and even bought a simple cake for Emily, our 5-year-old daughter. I labeled the containers and left a note for my husband, Nathan, saying dinner was ready and just needed to be heated up. The next morning, I left early for work. The hospital was hectic, and I barely had time to sip water between patients. All that kept me going was the thought of coming home, showering, and eating dinner with my little girl. When my shift ended at 8 o'clock, I was exhausted, but content. That feeling lasted exactly until I turned onto our street. I saw 3 cars parked outside our house. None of them ours. Lights were on, music was playing, and the unmistakable smell of barbecue filled the air. My stomach sank. I approached slowly, confused. When I reached for the door, I froze. It had been forced open. The handle was broken and hanging by a thread. I stepped inside silently, and what I saw made my blood boil. The living room was a mess. People, cousins, uncles, aunts were sprawled on my furniture, feet on the coffee table, chips on the rug, drinks in plastic cups. Laughter filled the air like I wasn't even there. I walked toward the kitchen and stopped dead in my tracks. There she was, Mildred, wearing my apron, chopping meat like she owned the place, opening drawers, giving orders, flipping open cabinet doors as if this were her kitchen, as if this were her house. The fridge was empty, completely stripped. The cake, gone. The meals I had prepared, now sizzling on the backyard grill. Even the juice boxes I had bought for Emily were nowhere to be found. "Amanda!" One of Nathan's cousins called out with a mouthful of chips. "Look who finally made it. Want a drumstick?" "A drumstick?" I didn't answer. I scanned the room, my jaw tight, until my eyes landed on Nathan. Sitting in the backyard, laughing with his uncle, holding a beer, oblivious to the storm building inside me. "Oh, good. You're home," Mildred said, pretending to smile. "Food's almost ready. Make yourself comfortable." Make myself comfortable. I didn't explode. I didn't scream. I just turned around, climbed the stairs to check on Emily, who, thankfully, was sleeping soundly, and lay down beside her. But I didn't sleep. My body was still. My mind was racing. They thought they'd gotten away with it. But tomorrow, they would learn that there are lines you do not cross. And I was going to teach that lesson in a way they would never forget. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel to support our work. That way, we can keep bringing you touching and emotional stories like this one that reach the heart and make you reflect. Thank you so much for being here with us. The next morning, I didn't speak a word. Not to Nathan, not to Mildred, not to anyone. I woke up early, got Emily ready for school, and left the house as if nothing had happened. But in my mind, a plan had already taken shape, sharp, cold, and calculated. Nathan tried to talk to me before I walked out the door. "Amanda, you're really overreacting. It was just a get-together. They were going to leave soon anyway." Overreacting. That was his word of choice. He stood in the kitchen, now half cleaned, acting like his mother hadn't destroyed my fridge and my trust all in one evening. Like forcing a door open to throw a party in someone else's home was nothing but a casual visit. I looked him dead in the eye and said quietly, "We'll talk later." But what I didn't say was this. He had just lost his right to make excuses. Spent the day working, as usual. But every free second I had, I was making calls, writing lists, checking contacts. I remembered something my friend Veronica once told me, a real estate agent and a genius when it came to property law. Ownership means control. And control means limits. If someone crosses your boundaries, you show them where the wall is, and that's exactly what I was going to do. You see, our house wasn't Nathan's house, as his mother liked to say. It was ours, bought together, with my name on the deed. Half of every square foot belonged to me, including the door they broke and the food they devoured. So the next day, I left work a bit earlier and went straight to the locksmith. I paid in cash for a brand new, high-security digital lock, the kind that doesn't just keep people out. It reminds them they were never supposed to come in. When I got home, the first thing I did was replace the old broken handle with the new system. Nathan looked confused when he saw the technician drilling into the door frame. "Amanda, what's going on?" "Making sure this house stays closed to people who think it's a hotel." That was the last thing I said before I went upstairs. I didn't cook that night. I didn't do laundry. I didn't clean the dishes they left behind from their so-called get-together. I put on my headphones and spent the evening reading in silence. It took them one more day to notice I wasn't just mad. I was done playing nice. The real fun began on Saturday. That morning, I took Emily for a play date and made sure to leave, the house completely empty, except for the surprise I had arranged. Around 10 o'clock, as expected, Nathan's relatives began to show up again. Mildred had obviously decided to make the weekend another family celebration. Only this time the door didn't open. They rang the bell, then rang again, then called Nathan, who was still inside, clueless. He came downstairs and tried to open the door from the inside, only to find out the lock required a code I hadn't shared with anyone. He called me, of course. "Amanda, what's the code? Mom and the others are outside," I replied, calmly. "If they want to come in, they'll need an invitation and permission. That's how it works in houses with respect. Amanda, this is childish." "No, Nathan. What's childish is breaking into someone's home, emptying their fridge, and calling it family bonding." And then I hung up. I can't even describe the satisfaction I felt imagining them all outside, under the sun, wondering how the woman they underestimated suddenly became the one setting the rules. And this was only the beginning. Because people like Mildred don't learn with closed doors. They need to be reminded that a home is not just four walls. It's trust. It's effort. And if you can't respect the person who builds it every day, then you have no place inside it. I knew what was coming next. People like Mildred don't retreat quietly. They get louder, more dramatic, more entitled. And true to form, that Sunday morning she came knocking again, not with humility or regret, but with accusations. I was in the kitchen, making pancakes for Emily, when I saw her through the front window. Arms crossed, lips pursed, standing like a queen waiting to be led into her palace. Nathan opened the door for her, reluctantly. I watched silently, flipping the pancake one more time before turning off the stove. She didn't even say good morning. "Amanda," she began, as if we were about to negotiate a hostage release. "We need to talk. This behavior is unacceptable." Wiped my hands on a towel and looked her in the eye. "I agree. So let's talk." She stepped inside, without asking, and took her usual place at the table, like she still ran the house. Nathan followed, standing awkwardly beside her, clearly wishing he could vanish. "I've spoken to the rest of the family," she began, "and they were all shocked by your attitude. You embarrassed us. You locked us out of your home like we were strangers." I leaned forward, hands on the table. Calm. Steady. "You are not strangers, Mildred. You're uninvited guests who forced your way into my house, destroyed everything I had prepared, and treated my home like a playground. We were just having a little celebration. Nathan said it was okay." I turned to my husband. "Did you say it was okay for them to break the lock? Eat everything in the fridge? Turn our house upside down while I was working a 12-hour shift?" Nathan hesitated. I didn't expect it to get out of hand." "You didn't expect?" I repeated. "That's the problem. You don't expect. You allow. And now you're surprised because I finally put a boundary in place." Mildred was fuming. Her face went red. "You can't just treat family like intruders, Amanda. That's not how this works." "Actually," I said, reaching into the drawer and pulling out a file folder, "that's exactly how it works. This is a copy of our property agreement. My name is on every document, which means I have every legal right to protect this house from anyone I consider a threat to my peace, including your weekend invasions." Her jaw clenched, but she said nothing. Nathan looked at the folder like he'd never seen it before. "I'm not doing this to hurt you," I continued. "But if you can't respect me in my own home, then you don't belong here." That night, I made a decision I should have made months ago. I sat Nathan down after Emily had gone to sleep and laid everything on the table. Not just the incident, but the years of silent tolerance, the constant belittling from his mother, the way he always asked me to let it go just to keep peace. "Nathan, I love you. But I'm not raising our daughter in a house where I'm disrespected by your family and ignored by you." He looked stunned, maybe because it was the first time I'd ever drawn the line so clearly. "So what are you saying?" he asked, his voice small. "I'm saying this is the last warning. I will not live in a home where I'm treated like a guest, or worse, an enemy. This is my home too. And from now on, my rules apply." He didn't argue. He didn't defend her. And that silence told me everything. Over the next few days, Mildred tried calling, texting. She even left a message with Emily's school, pretending it was an emergency. But I didn't respond. Not until I was ready. Because the next move wouldn't be just words. It would be a reminder that respect isn't given where it's not returned. And I was just getting started. The next Saturday, I hosted a dinner. But not just any dinner. A carefully planned event. One that would send a message to everyone who thought I would keep swallowing disrespect in silence. I invited only the people who had supported me. Veronica, my friend from the real estate office. My coworker Jenna, who had watched me cry in the break room one too many times. And my sister Claire, who had always warned me about Nathan's side of the family. No in-laws. No exceptions. Emily helped me bake brownies that morning. She was so excited to set the table, folding napkins like a little hostess. I made her favorite lasagna, bought fresh flowers for the centerpiece, and even used the nice plates. The ones Mildred always said were too fancy for regular people. The guests arrived around 6. Laughter filled the house. But this time, it was the kind that warms the air, not the kind that drowns you out. I felt seen, heard, respected, and for the first time in weeks, I saw Nathan watching me from across the room, finally starting to realize what he had nearly destroyed. Halfway through the evening, while we were eating dessert, someone knocked at the door. I didn't need to guess who it was. I walked to the door slowly, took a deep breath, and opened it just enough to see her face. There stood Mildred, holding a covered dish, eyes darting past me into the house. "I made peach cobbler," she said, with that strained sweetness she reserved for manipulation. "Thought I'd stop by." "We're having a private dinner," I replied, calm but firm. "Just close friends tonight." "I'm your mother-in-law," she said a little louder. "Doesn't that count for something?" I didn't blink. It counts when it comes with respect, not when it comes with keys, opinions, and broken locks. She stood there, stunned. I didn't slam the door. I closed it gently, turned the lock, and walked back to the table like nothing had happened. Veronica raised an eyebrow. "Was that her?" I nodded. "Did she finally apologize?" Claire asked. "No," I said, taking another bite of brownie. "But she finally heard no. That's a start." Nathan said nothing the entire evening. But later that night, after everyone had left, he approached me quietly. "You were right," he said. "I didn't protect you. I let her run over everything you built here." I looked at him. "I needed you to be my partner, not her referee. I want to fix this. Then start by choosing your role, husband or middleman." He nodded slowly. The next morning, he made the call. I listened from the hallway as he told his mother, in no uncertain terms, that our home was no longer open for pop-in visits, surprise parties, or family takeovers. That any future plans would involve my consent, or they wouldn't happen at all. And just like that, the silence on the other end of the call said more than her words ever could. It wasn't the end of the war, I knew that, but it was the beginning of my peace. A woman can forgive being tired, she can forgive being stretched thin, but she cannot, and should not, forgive being made to feel like a stranger in her own home. From that day forward, every decision in that house had two signatures. Mine was the first, and the next time someone rang the bell without warning, they didn't get the door. Weeks passed. The house was calmer now. The quiet wasn't empty. It was intentional. Emily smiled more. Nathan started taking initiative, from setting the table to putting his phone down during dinner. It wasn't perfection, but it was partnership. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I wasn't holding up everything alone. Then came the real surprise. One afternoon, as I was leaving work, I received a call from the local hardware store. Apparently, someone had tried to order a copy of our front door key using Nathan's old file from years ago, and failed. The clerk thought it was suspicious and decided to call me, since my name was now listed as the primary homeowner. I didn't have to ask who it was. It was a final act of defiance, one last attempt to regain access, to remind me that Mildred wasn't used to being shut out. She had spent her entire life believing that proximity gave her power, that being family meant automatic entitlement. But I had learned something far more powerful. Family is built on respect, not bloodlines. And in that moment, I felt proud, not for shutting the door, but for standing in front of it and saying, "Not like this, not anymore." Instead of confronting her, I did something else. I wrote a letter, not a message, not a text, a handwritten sealed letter, the kind that forces someone to stop and read, slowly. "Mildred, you once told me that family sticks together. I agree. But sticking together should never mean stepping over someone else. You broke into my home. You emptied my kitchen. You erased the time, effort, and care I had put into making this place safe and warm for my child. That wasn't love. That was control. And what you fail to understand is that love, real love, involves boundaries. You are not being punished. You are being taught how to approach this home with respect. The next time you want to visit, you'll be welcome. If you knock, if you call, and if you come as a guest, not a queen. Sincerely, Amanda. I mailed it, and I never heard back. And that was okay, because I wasn't waiting for an apology. I wasn't waiting for her to change. I had already changed, and that was enough. Months later, we hosted Thanksgiving in our home. This time, the guest list was curated with care. The table was set by all three of us, Nathan, Emily, and me. And as I looked around, I saw what I had fought so hard to protect. Not just a house, a home, not just peace, a standard. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need her approval. I had something better. My voice, my boundaries, and my front door locked. Not out of fear, but out of self-respect. And from now on, only those who truly see me will ever get a key.